It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 6, Episode 8. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
Hello, everybody.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show here in space. Chris, how are you, my good brother?
Mick, what's going on? I am well, doing well, getting into the holiday spirit, which I know you are.
Oh, absolutely.
No, you're in your red today.
I'm wearing my red.
Last couple times I've seen you've been in red. I didn't even know we had this many clothes up here in space.
That's right. Well, it may be the same. It may be the same shirt. I got green pants on and a red top, man. I'm all jingle jangle right now. You know what I mean? You know
Ready to go. Ready to go.
The beauty about being in space
man.
is most people only see you on a 2-inch screen, so...
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
you can wear the same thing forever.
Forever. And there's no air up here, so you don't sweat.
That's right. That's right.
So, anyway, what have you been up to, my brother? What have you been up to?
Nothing, man. Nothing at all, my friend. Nothing at all. Still writing, creating, recording. That's it. That's it, brother. That's, again, like I've been saying the past couple episodes, it's, our main focus right now. So that's it, brother.
I've been in a writing, recording mode the last, month or so, month and a half. I mean, not everything is going to be knocked out of the ballpark, of course, but it's a good way to kind of work through some stuff and just kind of get the ideas down, because if they linger too long in the head, it starts to bother me. It starts to get in the way of other things because I keep going, I got to get this out of my head. I got to get this out of my head.
Yeah.
And kind of like a check mark and just go, okay, then I can come back to it. Like I like cataloging things, putting it on the shelf and just letting it be.
Yeah.
You know, I can always go back to where I need a piece, but sometimes it's like getting those ideas down. It's like having a sketch pad, right? I mean, that's to me one of the beauties about the digital age and having that in the box ability to do some of that. Some of it I'll do it on my phone, whether I'm around a guitar and I'll just kind of record some stuff on my phone, not even through an amp or anything, just, acoustically. Or I'll record myself kind of humming out or, doing the sound effects for a riff that I hear in my head or something like that.
Yeah.
So having the opportunity to just kind of plug into a laptop and just lay some tracks down on a clicker really benefits me later on, so that when we go back to, as a band, go back to, okay, we're working on new material, well, what do you have? I'm kind of ahead of the game, but I'm also in development, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice thing about our phones now and iPads. You come up with an idea, especially with me, because I'm writing lyrics. I can literally just pull something out, type something out real quick, and then just save it for later and go back to it when I'm ready. But if I have an idea, I can instantly go to one of those electronic devices of mine, type that stuff in.
Yeah, it's like the Michael Keaton Batman of '89. The news reporter. He constantly recorded himself on the little.
That's right. Has a little recorder.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I remember, as a younger person, I'm like, man, you got to carry that around? You can't remember it? What's the matter with you old people? Well, we're now doing it, all of us. Here we are. We're recording it. Anyway, it really is. I think it's a huge benefit, because I can't tell you how many things, and they probably weren't worth it to begin with, but I would be fooling around with something like, I'll remember this. And man, even 10 minutes later, I forget the flow of it. I can remember the chords or the procession of the pattern, but not the flow of it or the how I did it, Yeah. It's in those moment things. It's the same thing with lyrics. Thankfully, with the phone, you have those typing apps, those word type apps. Even if it's just a line or two, I got to put it down because before, I would say I remember and I don't. Believe it or not, I have a box from the 80s, early 90s of napkins, paper bags, old loose leaf paper. Do they call it loose leaf anymore? I don't even know.
Do they even have paper?
Do they have paper? They have to somewhere. Somebody. I still use it, I think, unless that's, who knows. But loose leaf paper. I was like, loose leaf paper? What is that? With your 3-ring binder? Anyway.
Yeah.
Your number 2 pencils, all that exciting stuff.
Had to put Gennardi's.
Yeah, Gennardi's like book covers.
Grocery bags over.
Yeah, you had to turn them inside out. You fold the bottom, and then we decorate them.
And you draw on it.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you listen, in the late '70s, early '80s, those paper bags were thick, man.
Yes, sir, they were.
You could fill them with water and they wouldn't leak. Nowadays, those paper bags are so thin, like you can't even get your groceries. As soon as you pick them up, they tear. You kidding me, right? You kidding me? For years, you got to stop with the paper bags because it's killing the trees, so we'll go to plastic. Now it's the plastic are choking us out, killing fish, but we're going back to paper bags. Okay, there you go.
Or no bags.
Or bags,
You have to buy these fabric bags for 25 cents.
Yeah, and then you have a back room of like 6,000 bags that you should leave in your car, but you don't, or you forget you do. I don't know.
I hate them. I hate all those bags in my car. I absolutely hate it.
We're bag people now. Bag people. That's not a bag person. That's my wife. Ba-bam-bam.
So I'm sorry. So you said you still have a box from like.
I got a box from the 80s, early 90s from my first couple bands of just lyrics. And every so often I'll go through them, and some of them are just horrible. Like, oh my God, like adolescent type of writings. But every so often there's a decent idea somewhere in there. Word or two, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, listen, some of the songs that I've done in recent years have been, rehashings of songs I wrote in the 80s, like bits and pieces, you know what I mean? I could name a bunch, but it doesn't make a difference. But sometimes a good idea is a good idea, and you just have to kind of take it into where you're at that point. I think the beauty about being an artist is nothing can really ever not be used. You can hold off on it. You can retool it. You can reshape it. You can steal from it. I mean, stealing from yourself. I know I've seen videos and read articles about artists who have stolen from themselves. It's like, is that really stealing? I mean, we all have a tendency to redo something that we've already have done, whether it's brand new or not. But you can hear aspects. I mean, that's someone's style, someone's playing. I mean, Ace Frehley used some of the same lead licks in multiple songs over multiple years. And sometimes that's just indicative of his playing style. Certain lyric phrasings or runs or whatever. And I mean, I've done it as well. And drummers do the same thing. Oh, there's that fill. I mean, I've always said, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I know that people want to do that, but I think that's something that's going to lead down a path of constant frustration and disappointment. You know what I mean?
Agree.
I think that keeping that wheel going and making that ride as smooth as possible, and in the event that while you're on that road, something new and different comes about, but how new and different is it in this day? It could be just fresh, a new approach to it, right? A new perspective, but it really is the same old stuff. We're not doing anything different than the guys in the 80s did, anything different than they did in the 60s, and all those blues players did in the 30s and the 20s and so on and so forth, the big band. And I mean, we're playing the devil's notes that were done back in the Middle Ages.
It's true, right? And there's that famous video that goes around every once in a while of like David Grohl. I forget who he's being interviewed by, but it's another famous artist. He's like, listen, you can't call me a great drummer because I'm not a great drummer. I ripped off bands that he listened to. And he even said, if you listen to the drumming off of Nevermind, Nirvana's biggest record ever, he says it's all just disco beats. The MC5 and all those R&B artists that he used to listen to when he was growing up. And he's like, I just ripped them off. Then they play the video of Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it is exactly the drum beat of a famous disco song, which escapes me right now. But he's not reinventing himself, and Nirvana changed the industry at the time. But think about it. I mean, he's just playing drum beats that he listened to back when he was a kid. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, that's what he did, and he's now, renowned as and now he's known as one of the famous rock stars of our generation.
Yeah, I think that he embraced it a certain way. Like, I'm not a gigantic Dave Grohl fan. Like, I mean, sometimes it
No.
kind of like works my nerves, but I get it. People like him. He seems personable. Is he really creative? I don't know. Did he just fall into a certain thing that, I don't know, one way or the other. Is he a great drummer? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what his guitar playing is compared to somebody like Eddie Van Halen or whatever, but I don't think he cared about that. Like, he definitely, one of his things, I think, is that he took his success and he propelled it even higher by surrounding himself with even bigger names and bringing people to the forefront, which gave him recognition. Now, I don't know if that was necessarily a planned thing or that's a fanboy type of thing that worked out in his favor, because he's done some really amazing things and gotten involved in some very amazing collaborations and organizations and things like that. I mean, it's been lucrative for him by keeping himself out there with all these other artists and organizations and things like that, which then kind of just plays back the music that he does. So when he does release a new album with the Foo Fighters, it's already in the public's know. And I guess, listen, in terms of what he's doing, it's solid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I mean, like I said, I've never been a gigantic fan of Nirvana, Foo Fighters, him, but you can't discredit what they've done and how they've achieved. Again, like we talked about in a previous episode about how your ears and eyes soften with age, I can appreciate Nirvana for what they did. At the time, I was not digging it at all. Like, I was like, again, because I was still into this metal scene in a certain way, and I was carrying the torch and all that kind of stuff, which was, I don't know, which was good one way or the other. But even within the metal guys started trying to do alternative or whatever, grunge, and, some of them were falling off the wagon simply because, like, I mean, again, if you go back and think about it, how many of these guys were really dedicated to the cause? Probably not, because everybody was trying to keep up a lifestyle. So it was about the money. It was about, and we're seeing that today. These guys that are technically your heroes, so to speak, some of these guys, it's just out for the money. Like, as we talked about before we got on the air here, guys overcharging to get a picture or an autograph or to see them. Or some of these guys should just be happy that people just want to see them. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be making money off of their fame. Everybody deserves that right. That's America, right? That's the capitalistic type of view, the positive end of it. Everybody, if you've worked hard, then you should be paid. But to bleed fans that are simply supporting you, I think is crazy. Because sometimes I think that these guys are so disillusioned and so disconnected, they don't understand the impact they have on the individual. Some of these people are so, you know what I'm talking about, like with, like if you're,
I totally agree.
A favorite artist who maybe did change certain aspects of their life, they helped pull them through their music and all. I don't know if these guys, they all talk, this and that and the other thing, but I don't think that they really believe that, because if they did, they wouldn't charge $500 for a picture, $2,000 to see them backstage. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? I think it's gotten so out of hand. Listen, it's greed. This industry's always been that way. I think industry, in its sense, has always been everybody wants to make as much as they possibly can. They tell you two stories. There's plenty to go around, and then there's not enough to go around. There's not enough to go around if a small group of people are taking advantage of it.
Right.
If there was a balance to it, then there'd be enough to go around. Again, we're a political show this morning.
No, I agree, dude. I think that there are so many artists that are just so disconnected from the reality of situations. Like, they live in their own bubble for so long. They think that everybody lives in that bubble. There's that story Kevin Smith told one time about he got involved in doing a Prince documentary. And he was talking to, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but he was talking to one of his Prince's assistants, because Kevin Smith was like, he wants these things that I just can't give him. And she's like, listen, you live in Prince world right now, because there have been times where, he call his people up in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. and want a camel. And they're like, bro, like, we can't get a camel in the middle of at 4 a.m. and, where Paisley Park is. Like, it's just not feasible.
Right.
But he lived in a world where he didn't understand that. Like, he lived in Prince world. And if Prince wanted a camel at 4 a.m, he should be able to get a camel. Sometimes that makes those guys eccentric, and that's what makes them, so creative But yeah, Gene Simmons, same thing is, he's, and I say his name because one, we have to mention Kiss, and two, because he's one of those guys that is, always out there, always doing interviews. Those guys are just clueless. They just don't have their finger on the pulse at all. The finger is so far from the pulse, I don't even know if they could see it in their eyesight. Like, it's just, these guys just don't have a concept of reality at all. They really don't.
It is kind of a bummer because everybody says, well, if you were in that position, you would do the same thing too. I don't know. None of us actually really know what we're ever going to do. It is a sad state, if you think about it, that we'll all fall short to that, in a sense that that kind of greed, that kind of thinking would take over our personality so much so that we would alter things like that. I don't know. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to meet some celebrities that did seem a little more down to earth, but then again, it's not like I went out for dinner with them and spent a week at their house, so I don't know for sure. Sometimes you can pick that up in a moment or two. I've met some lower level celebrities that were insufferable. I guess it all depends, the individual and how it affects them, and then how they then translate that to everybody else around them. But I agree with you. I think some of, our heroes, these rock stars, so to speak, I think they lose touch after a while of who it is that's actually supporting them. I mean, they're just regular people. Everybody wants to talk about, I have a 9-to-5 job. Well, no, you don't have a 9-to-5 job. You can't necessarily talk about the same thing that we're talking about, and then you're charging me $2,000 to see you. You know what I mean? Never been that hard up or interested to pay that kind of money to go see somebody on a VIP package. There's just no interest to it.
Right.
I don't like I don't like paying if I don't have to. So overpaying for me is just a waste of time. I won't even consider it. Would there be people I would like to meet? Yeah, like these rock fantasy camps. These people talk about, I met Paul Stanley and I met so and so. No, you didn't. You paid. Like, don't talk. Don't. You know, it's not like you were invited. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
You paid some crazy amount of money to go sit and do a couple bars with these guys. They're being paid top dollar, putting it up in a nice hotel and being fed really well. To them, they're just working. It kind of puts things in a weird perspective sometimes, and especially how we've been talking about how the industry's changing. And artists they're setting up tours, they're pre-selling tickets, which are higher than normal anymore. And then they're charging bands, opening bands to be on the bill, and then they cancel these tours, saying that there's travel issues or equipment issues. And it's like, well, like you said, don't they know this? And then you want to charge additional to the fans. Like, you're already charging the fans a little bit more in ticket price, I think. You're already charging the bands to play with you, right? You're creating these get on the bill packages. You're pre-selling stuff. You're using some backline from the opening acts. And then you're charging the fans the amount to go see or get an autograph from these guys, like for literally 35 seconds. It runs the gambit from, $100, $150, $500, $1,000, $1,500 into the grands. Again, some ticket prices are crazy. $150. What were they charging for the Rolling Stones at one point? It was 50.
Dude,
it was crazy, right?
Amazing, bro. It's been amazing. That's the problem. People pay it.
Oh, people pay it.
I say this thing the thing about the NFL, with the Eagles tickets. Everybody complains about how high the tickets are, but you still pay. And I know there's always going to be somebody who pays. I'm fully aware of that. But you want ticket prices to come down? Don't pay it. Don't go. If everybody stood together and didn't go to whatever event, then the ticket prices would have to be lower because they want people there.
Right. I agree. I mean,
it's a simple thing, but of course there are people that go, I don't want to miss the Rolling Stones. This could be their last time, and I get that. I do. I totally understand that, and I respect it. I'm not going to do it, but I respect. I don't judge anybody for doing it. But if you want to lower those ticket prices, then everybody has to make a stand and not go. But that's that's going to be impossible.
No, like I was telling you before we went on air, like I bought some tickets to see a show of two acts that had a hit both since the early 80s. I wanted to catch them. I think I would enjoy the show. And when I started looking at prices of tickets, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is crazy. How bad did I want to see them? Well, I wound up buying in the nosebleed section. I figured, what? you can't see them anyway. You wind up watching the screen. It's,
yeah,
you know what
at
I
least
mean?
you're there.
Nowadays,
You can say you're there.
Yeah, you know, I'm just getting the experience because I do love and enjoy that live experience. I love hearing the crack of the drums. I mean, like in that live, there's just something about it, right? But at the same time, I don't want to overpay. I just think it's crazy. And I understand that it may not be them 100% because everything else around them, like we talked about in other episodes, like touring has become, it's a strain. It really is overpriced. And if it's overpriced for your big national, well-known bands, or even international bands, what do you think it is for indie and trench bands? It's undoable. People just can't do it. And like I've talked about, like my model for the new year is probably going to be a lot different than it has been in previous years. I think it's taken this long, the 3 years following COVID, not for us to bring that up yet again, but to kind of settle into what's really happening here as we're learning everything and now saying, you know what, maybe we don't need this at the same capacity. Maybe this is all we need to do now. Because prior to 2020, it was one thing. Following the pandemic, it was something else. Yeah. And now we're moving past that, still feeling the ripple effects of it. But now, like we've talked about multiple times there, I keep talking about, things got to change. If you're looking for longevity, whether that longevity is another 3 years, another 5 years, another 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, to roll with the times, you got to find, in my opinion, rolling with the times isn't just going, okay, I'll just keep paying. Well, that's what it is now. I guess I'm going to have to do it. I'm not a fan of that because what happens is you lose your shirt and you run out of steam because the system doesn't pay and the system's designed not to stop. Like you said, there's always somebody there.
Always could be somebody.
Like P.T. Barnum may have said, there's an ass for every seat.
That's right.
So
100%.
If you wanted to work for you, rolling with the times is, well, how's my model now going to fit into this? So I may need to tweak it here. I may need to massage here, shave off a little here, or add something here. Sometimes less is more. I don't know. You have to figure that out for yourself. But I'm starting to see where I can cut the fat about what I want to do if I want to keep doing this. And to me, the most important thing for me is to be able to continue to write, record, and release music. And I enjoy playing out, but I'm not going to play out just for the sake of playing out. Like, I don't need to do that anymore. If I get a show or two a month at this point in time, I'm happy with it. Like we talked about, things may have to kind of be pulled in for another year or two, weathering the storm, if you want to use that term, and then slowly start to open things up again. Slowly start to... Because there's a lot of new... For bands in your local scene, and I mean, I know it's here, and I'm sure it's everywhere, say across the U.S., or even, you know, other places. There's a lot of new booking companies that have come out. Venues, they're almost 100% hands off now in terms of booking. You've seen it, right? And now, and now it's these little clicks that are happening, and it's making it hard. Like we talked about before, we thought we got rid of the gatekeepers. Well, the gatekeepers are back, baby. They're back.
Yes, they are.
And they're starting to grow. They're starting to grow. Yeah, a little tweaking here and there, I don't know. But hey, listen, if that's your goal, you want to be a big wig and charge $1,000 for people to get a button from you, well then, more power to you. I hope it works.
Yeah.
I hope it works. I'll buy one on eBay. It'd be cheaper for me.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Or Amazon if you make it.
Oh, you know, I want to get a magnet from Italy. Well, just order one. Pretend you were there.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
All right, baby. So let's get to the topic of the show. So the topic of the show is having a mentor. Having a mentor. As an artist, do you feel it's important to have someone who you can bounce ideas off of, who's impartial to your situation in a sense they can give you a clear and concise and a genuine answer or input based on the information that you give them? What do you think, buddy? I mean, have you had mentors as an artist, as an individual, in any aspect of your life? How do you feel about them? What do you think?
You know, it's funny. I think that I've had mentors and never realized it until years and years later. And what I mean by that is everybody who I've been in a band with, and I've said this in many interviews, I've always had the pleasure of working with super, super talented people. And those super talented people, they showed me a few things. One, they showed me that I don't have to, I'm trying to think of the words I can put it. Trust is a big thing, right? You have to trust the people that you're with in a band. And the guys I am with and have been with, I've trusted them to write great music. And that's kind of mentored me, right? Like, you know, if you see someone that's in your band that is really good at what they do, then it makes you kind of step up to what you do to be better. Especially now, the situation I'm in now, as I've gotten older, you know, I've really put a lot of trust in the guys who I'm playing with because I know what they're capable of talent-wise. You know, you just kind of trust the people that you're with. And I think that you learn something from everybody. And I think that is, you know, that's kind of a mentor thing where someone makes you work better and harder because of how talented they are. But to go back to your original question, yes, I've had many of mentors. And again, I didn't realize until, you know, many years later, because, you know, you learn things from different people as time goes on. Everybody that you meet along the way will give you a piece of information if you're listening and paying attention, whether it be the wrong way, whether it be the right way. So I think that having a mentor, I don't know if looking for a mentor, I think getting a mentor is just something that kind of falls in your lap. And you just kind of have to realize it when you have it, right? Like you don't have to look for a mentor. It kind of happens. You take things from people to keep you going further. But yes, mentors, I've had many mentors. You know, my vocal teacher was, you know, she was a mentor of mine. She saw something in me that gave me the confidence to be able to realize that I can do anything. I don't necessarily have to sing metal. Now, obviously, I'm not a singer like, say, Frankie or, you know, Rob Halford or, you know, that kind of singing. But she mentored me in a way where she gave me the confidence that if that's the direction I wanted to go, then that's the direction she would teach me. Obviously, I didn't go in that direction because that's not what I was looking for at the time. What I was looking for at the time has now brought me to here. So, you know, she has mentored me in that way, you know, showing me how to sing and how to sing properly. And that's a mentor. And then I've had many people in my life show me different things and different aspects of the industry and to booking and to, you know, showing how things are done on the business side, how to handle money, how to book shows, how to run shows. You know, everybody has been a mentor to me. Obviously, there's been some that have shown me more than others, but everybody that I've been in business with in this career of mine has been a mentor of some way. Again, whether it's musical, whether it's business, whether it's ideas, I really am very open to people's ideas and I learn from everybody and I take a bit of everybody, use that, you know, to further my career. I mean, I could even say, I mean, I could honestly sit here and say that even you, Mick, have been a mentor of mine, you know, especially in the past number of years that we've kind of, you know, done a lot of work together, you know, more than we have in the past. I mean, even back then we kind of did stuff together, but you know, in the past few years we've done a lot together, and how you guys conduct yourselves and how you do things, and it's kind of opened my eyes up to, you know, how to do things. Maybe I go, well, you know, I never really thought of something that way, and let me try it and give it a shot, and it works. You know, it may work better for some people and it may not work better for others, but if you try it because, you know, you trust someone and they have a vision, then, you know, you try it and see, and then you can sit back and go, well, there's a mentor in everybody. You just kind of have to look for it and ask questions and be honest, you know, and be open enough to ask questions, and hopefully they'll be willing to help you. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast, right? I mean, we are kind of mentors in ourselves. We're doing this show. We've been doing the show for 6 seasons in the hopes that we are mentoring somebody. Even if we help 1 or 2 people, we're mentoring somebody. And, you know, and hopefully someone will eventually say, oh yeah, you know, I got that information from the Cosmick Voice. And, you know, because those cats have been around the block, so they know what they're talking about, or at least, you know, give me some ideas. And even if they tried something that we said and failed, they can go, hey man, you know, I got this idea from them and it didn't work. And that's okay, because they at least listened and they at least tried it. And that's a big thing.
If anything, they listen and do what we didn't do.
Yeah, that too. That totally, you know, listen, just because we're doing this show does not make us, you know, right in everything we do or say. You know, we could just because we failed at something or we succeeded at something doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else, especially with the industry. We've said it so many times, it changes. So what we've done in the past may not work now, but at least we're giving you the option to go, okay, well, it worked then, so maybe it'll work now.
I think there's some genuine input in terms of, I mean, we're not saying that one thing works over the other better than the other, or, it's guaranteed. There's never any guarantees. But I think what we've presented in our format is we're just letting people know. I think that by not saying that everything works kind of puts it in a different perspective. I mean, we're telling you, we've done things that just have flat out just didn't work, and it was a complete and utter failure. I think that what we demonstrate is that we keep going on, and this is not a pat on the back. I can't even get my arm back there anymore at the movement that I have, lack thereof. I think that you can take it for what it is. It's like you said, you can take an idea that didn't work for somebody else and make it work for you simply by changing some of the parameters, right? Because everybody's model is going to be slightly different. And I think that by demonstrating things not working changes the tone of the show. Again, it's from the very beginning. This is just our experiences. These are just the things that we do. Are we mentors? I don't know. I guess you could be. I mean, I don't think that we set out that way. This was more of like our way of getting people empowered. And maybe that's what a mentor does, I think, after the years of my experience. They empower you to think differently. They give you options to change your perspective. I've been fortunate enough, I've had a number of mentors that were specifically mentors in my life. I didn't go out, like you said, looking for them, like put an ad out. Mentor wanted.
No.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
You know what I mean? Willing to do anything type of thing. You know what I mean? It didn't work like that. Believe it or not, some of my mentors that I've had, I've met not even real, like most unlikely places that I didn't even consider. Like I said in the beginning, it's like an impartial viewpoint. Like, what do you think? Because they don't have necessarily a stake in the game. What you want out of it is somebody that's going to definitely tell you the truth and not sugarcoat it, but at the same time not chop you down at the knees and inflame your dreams just to douse them out. Yeah. There's plenty of naysayers like that, believe me. You want haters, you can get them. And you probably could put an ad out for that. Hey, haters needed.
That,
and you'll have about 1,000 people. Mentors, they're much harder to find.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
But I think that this show has been designed in a way for us to empower other artists like us. For us, you and I, we really want a much better scene. Now, was the scene really that much better when we were younger? I don't know. Probably not, because everybody goes through the same thing. Like, oh, back in the day, it was this, it was that. It's just because that's what we were used to. And you're fresh and you're young and you got all this energy and spirit, and you can bounce back up. At our age, the only thing we bounce is if we fall, we kind of bounce up and down a little bit. We hurt things every time we bounce. It's like, ouch, ouch, ooh. Somebody help me, please? That kind of thing. I think that if more people were aware that there is positive in what seems to be this negative sea, it's just a matter of, like you said about the tickets, if people just put their foot down and stay together and go, I'm not going to pay it, things will change. We've seen it. We've seen it in this world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Same thing will happen, as we've been saying all season. The scene will change if bands stick together, if artists stick together and say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. But like you said with the tickets, there's always people who will pay it. And they're usually the people that are complaining as well. They're not really doing anything to change the scene. They just keep feeding it by paying into it over and over and over again. But I think mentors are good to have in any walk of life. Like if you're a parent, you get married, you have kids, sometimes your parents can become mentors, hopefully in a positive way. Maybe it's, an older neighbor or whatever. They can give you some insight and well, this is what I did. So you don't feel so alone, because I'll tell you, as being an artist sometimes, especially in the turmoil that the scene and this business can kind of create for you, you often feel like you're alone. It's like, I don't understand. I can't get anything going. What do I do,
Yeah.
And maybe a new perspective or a word of confidence. Not saying, oh, yeah, you're the best, don't worry about it. Those people don't know what they're talking about. That may help, but that's not sustainable. Say, hey, listen, man, there's some things going on here that maybe are slightly out of your control, but here's what you could do. You have this going for you. Why don't you work on this? You know, as an artist, especially today, you got to wear 100 different hats to make ends meet, and you can get lost. And if somebody just kind of says, hey, why don't you pull back the reins and focus on this for a little bit? Do a little bit of it. I just had a conversation with somebody about not even music business. I said, hey, listen, I go, you got a lot of good stuff here. I go, and this is from somebody who's not even involved in your industry. I go, but it's well packaged. It seems solid. It seems genuine. I go, but you're cutting yourself thin, too thin. I go, you're throwing too much at the wall, hoping something. I go, why don't you just kind of scale back and focus on this, because this seems like the thing. And they took a new perspective on it and go, yeah, you know, maybe you're right. And I'm not saying that I wasn't being a mentor. I just kind of was like, hey, I think this is a really good product. Why don't you just focus on a couple things here and see what happens? And sometimes as artists, that's all we need. We just need some focus, maybe just somebody to kind of nudge us back to the thing, because you can easily get sidetracked. You can easily get bombarded. You can easily get bamboozled because you lose sight, because that passion is burning so much. You're like, I got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And then you're trapped in something you can't get out of. And then you've probably dug yourself a deeper ditch than you should have or needed to or planned to. So I think having some people that you can chat with, all successful people, if you've ever listened to Anthony Robbins or any of those motivational speakers, they themselves, successful people, have people that they go to and knock ideas around that give them inspiration as well. He's giving inspiration to other people, but somebody's got to give him inspiration as well. And
his inspiration came from somewhere.
Somewhere, right, exactly. And he goes around, he collects all this information, and then he brings it back to his community, so to speak. So I think we all need to have those people, and not one person for everything, because it may not be doable. You need some different perspective. You need somebody who maybe isn't a musician, but they're involved in the music business. They don't write, they don't play, they're doing something else. And then you need impartial people. An example here would be George Lucas at his time. I mean, it was Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, De Palma, a couple other people, his wife, I can't remember her name right now, who was an editor. And these were young filmmakers all kind of gathering together. Like, what a time that would have been, right? And they were shooting ideas off of each other. Was there internal jealousy? I'm not sure. But they did talk about, like, they would help each other get to the higher levels. Like, there was that camaraderie because they were the anti-establishment of that time, right, of the film industry. Yeah. And he played Star Wars, his first cut, in front of all those people, and they didn't get it. Spielberg was the only one, according to the lore, that said this is going to be big, but everybody else is like, the pace of this is horrible, I don't get it, and they say that Brian De Palma changed the opening crawl, and then his wife at the time re-edited the movie to the pace that we got today, and technically changed how movies were made. You know? So having some of that input, maybe it was negative input in a sense by some, and some people it was maybe a positive, but he took both of that and put together. You sometimes need that. Listen, and sometimes I've even had inspiration from some of the negative stuff that comes in. Yeah, you have to take it. Sure. You have to look at it in a way, because if it shuts you down, then it's pretty bad. Because I've been there too. It's like, you just kind of get knocked back in your seat, and you're like, well, what do I do now? Why me? Why me? Here come the violins, and then everything stops. But sometimes you can take it, even if it's coming with ill intent, because a lot of negativity is coming from an ill intent standpoint because they want to do this. A lot of critics do that. It's just
and an agenda too.
Yeah, there's an agenda.
Sometimes negative comes from an agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. For whatever reason, and like you had pointed out in other topics we talked about, there's that jealousy, that the haters, right? That they call them today.
Yep.
So I think having that perspective can definitely aid you in being a better artist, a stronger artist, a more well-rounded artist, a more aware artist. And I have one, I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that, but I have one mentor who I don't talk to as often as you would think, but I will go back to, and it's always like we just pick up where we left off. He's not directly connected with anything that I do. It doesn't make or break him, doesn't affect his pocket, doesn't affect his own career. But I have noticed this, and I will say this. People that are already successful to some level or feel comfortable at where they're at, they're always going to give you positive input, even if that positive input is not what you want to hear. But people that aren't, that are angry, disgusted, jealous, whatever, they will never give you positive input. Never. What I'm saying is sometimes a critique can help you move forward if given in a positive way. Negativity just spawns more negativity. End the story.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody
End
says.
of story, yep.
Because like you
100%.
said, it's given out of an agenda to ruin, to damage, to hurt, right? And even if that is just to make them think they're going to feel better, but it doesn't change where they're at. Successful people are not afraid to dispense good and bad. Listen, am I successful? I don't know. From the very first show that we've talked about, success is determined by you anymore. I don't care what anybody says. That's the way I look at it. So do I feel successful? Yeah, in certain things. Personally, are there things that I haven't achieved? Yeah, so I'm still working towards them. But I'm not afraid to tell you the issues that I've had, the problems that I've faced, the failures, and I don't look at them as failures. Mistakes are nothing but additional steps to success, because I've turned some of those flat on my face, totally destroyed failures, so to speak, into positives down the line. I've reworked them. I've taken bits and pieces, whatever. But I'm not afraid to talk about them, because the whole point of the show was to help empower people to say, yeah, you can make mistakes, but you can still do this. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, because you can do it. You just have to believe. That's it. And so, like you said, if we're looked at as mentors, hey, cool, man. That wasn't necessarily, I don't need that extra title. Believe me, I got enough of them, and none of them make any difference in the world. The ones that do, I keep them private. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But this show's gone 6 seasons. I'm excited about that. We're talking about stuff, and we're still talking about stuff that we're doing today. This just ain't back in the day routine. We did this, we did that. No, we're doing this. We're doing that. And if you've been listening to this season, we're already 8 shows in. I've been talking about I got to change the model because something's just not right. And if I want to go a little longer, I want to make the decision when I'm stopping. I don't want to be forced to stop. I don't want someone to say, no, you're done now. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Go away. Shoo, shoo. Shoo, shoo, fly. Shoo, shoo. Nah, that's not... Then you've never made any success. If you can't call some shots, what's the point of you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes having somebody you can bounce stuff off of is great. Band members are good, but to a certain extent, because you never know what they're dealing with too, and they may have an agenda and stuff like that. Because oftentimes bands start on the same page, but then they lose it somewhere. So you have to be careful of that. You have to be careful of that. If you feel strong enough, listen, there's always those, like someone you connect with. Like the guys in Skid Row, the 2 guys that started the band, like they're still working together. They're on the same page. They can fire off of one another. But I'm sure that each of them have mentors themselves outside of the chain of music as guides along the way. And listen, if mentor is too strong of a term for you, maybe trusted friend, maybe business associate, come up with anything you want. An opinion that you value. At the end, you have to value that opinion that that person gives you, and you have to trust it. Because if you don't have the trust, it doesn't make any difference what somebody says to you. You have to feel it, you have to believe it.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a mentor, so to speak. It's just someone that, like you had said, that you trust or that you don't mind getting opinions from, whether it be good or bad.
Exactly. There are times that you may face that someone who you think is a mentor or a friend or a trusted thing, and they kind of fall short. Listen, one of the worst things is that you see your heroes as regular people. It could be shocking to you. Yeah. I've had that experience. It is kind of a bummer. But as I get older, I start realizing it's like, well, listen, I'm with flaws. We're all human. We're not Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my flaws. I mean, when you're with a band for a number of years and you're in all these different situations, sometimes they see a side of you that isn't as flattering. I mean, if you've been in a marriage or a relationship, non-music related, the same thing happens. You see your significant other sometimes in less glamorous light, and they see you as such as well. but there's still a love and a affection and trust, and so it's when that trust is broken. And I've been in that situation where I can sometimes overlook that, hey, you know what, they're human, but I still value what they're doing. But when that trust is broken, and unfortunately I've been there too, everything then is questioned, even the stuff that you thought you believed in. Yeah. Again, going back to it, if you're going to find a mentor, more power to you. I think it's a positive thing in life. But if you don't feel the trust, or if you start losing the trust, it's time to walk away. And I'm not talking someone who's glad-handing you, who's stroking your ego. That's not the kind of mentor you want. You can pay a manager for that, or a PR person. You're paying for them, so of course they're going to stroke your ego. How many rock stars have talked about they had people around them that were glad-handing them because they were being paid. They want to keep being paid. But somebody who's not being paid, yes, people. Right, yes, people, who doesn't have a direct stake in the game will give you an honest opinion. And what I'm talking about is an opinion that's not motivated by personal preference. Because you'll get a lot of that in this business. I just recently heard, oh, you got to do something with them drums and that bass. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I prefer to, you know, I'm partial to, well, then why don't you start out the conversation that way? Say, like, I usually like a lot more bass. Don't say I need to do something about, what, to make you feel good? Turn up your bass, bud. Are you that lazy? Yeah. Take the bass, the EQ, and just kind of crank it a little bit. Oh, now you got bass. Yeah. I mean, in our day, you get an album and you still EQ it. You EQ it to the way you like. What, they don't want to do that now? Nobody wants to do that? Get out of here. That's not the kind of direction that you need. No, you know what I mean?
Nope. There's a difference between mentoring and opinions, right?
Right, exactly. Personally, a lot of critiques, a lot of them reviews, that's all opinionated stuff. And it comes out very vicious at times. Like, these guys are experts. Yeah, they're experts about living in their mother's basement and using their internet and not paying for your own. Go get another Twinkie, buddy. Go get another Twinkie.
It's true. It's very true.
What do you think, buddy? You got anything else you want to add?
I think that mentoring, someone mentoring you is going to do it without being malicious and giving you honest opinions. And I think you'll know who those people are. I think it's pretty easy to realize the information that you're getting is coming from a place of, you know, caring and interest other than being malicious and wanting to cut you out, especially in our business, right? Like, you know, our industry is so filled with jealousy and bitterness, and you have to be careful of those kind of people and that kind of information that you're given from those people, because they just want to cut you out, especially if you're a little more successful than they are. You'll know who those people are. You will realize that the mentoring or the information or the advice that you're getting from people, you'll realize that it's either out of caring and love or if it's coming from a bad place.
Absolutely agree. And here's the thing, too. You don't have to take everything that everybody gives you, right?
No.
Right. You go with what resonates best with you. It may be sound advice, but if you're not comfortable with it, it's not going to work for you. You may have to build up to that comfort level. So you can pick and choose some stuff, but don't pick and choose what's easy. Sometimes making changes, and I know this firsthand because I can't stand change. I keep saying to my wife, why does it got to change? I like it exactly the way it is. What's wrong with wanting to keep it that way? Well, the world changes. I get it, but why does this have to change? But sometimes it's a hard thing to do. So you have to do it as you see fit. You may not be financially ready for it. You may not be emotionally ready for it, mentally, spiritually, grammatically ready for it. It doesn't matter. Assess what's coming in and go with what works best for you. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Step in the Cosmickverse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmick Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmickvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmick Voice. You can find The Cosmick Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmick Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmickvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmick Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.